History always repeats itself. The life of the Prophet of Islam is another example how humans rarely learn from mistakes of the past, be it their own or someone else's. Even the modern society's outlook towards Islam is history repeating itself. Keep watching.
Now that we know that Muhammad was hoisted as a prophet in Mecca by Khadijah and Waraka. But contrary to their expectation, he flopped. When he was around 40, he started claiming as a prophet of Allah and tried to gather folks to follow him. Previous to his becoming a prophet, he was a sort of self-glued dreamer who did not have any motivation. But at the same time, he was never a nuisance as he later became to the pagans of the area. Though Muslims would like to claim that he was called as Sadiq al-Amin, none of the hadiths say so, therefore it's more of a propaganda and nothing more. If you have not watched the earlier 3 episodes of the series, please do watch it using the playlist link in the description box or the info card at the top right-hand corner. As with many of today's modern society, Mecca was also a multi-religious society, where religion was a personal preference and not subject to a public discourse. Everybody followed the religion and the deity whom they preferred for whatever reason it would have been. The society of Mecca was tolerant and secular. Nobody was treated unjustly because of the faith they belonged to. But what changed the whole equation is when the Prophet of Islam started abusing and mocking the gods of the pagans around that place. The tolerant society started growing intolerant with every passing day. Does it not reflect the social tensions in many of our nations just because of the same attitude by certain Islamic dawah preachers? The people of Mecca finally decided that there is no point in having a cordial relationship with Muhammad and his followers. Therefore, they jointly decided that they would not sell or buy anything from Muhammad and his group. It was kind of an economic boycott similar to the sanctions put on Russia or Iran by the Europeans and the Americans. This was a pure economic boycott. It should not be considered as some violence unleashed by one community on another community, which was the response of Muslims on the pagans later on in the story. The violence done by Muslims on the Banu Qurayza tribe was so horrendous that Hitler would feel outrun by the Muslims of Arabia. But we will discuss about the events that happened with Banu Qurayza in a different episode. Other than this economic boycott, there is no evidence of any kind of persecution of Muslims in Mecca, as has been alleged by many Muslim scholars to justify the violent actions by Muslims on them. This same formula continues even today. They make a big hue and cry accusing the majority community of persecuting them and being unjust to them. However, in reality, we all know that they are the ones who do not assimilate to the nation or the culture they have gotten themselves into. They try to elbow out and be a problem community to disturb the life of the country they have immigrated to. They expect others to adjust to their fussy way of life, and naturally, that has been the cause of many riots in countries that has been peaceful before the arrival of Muslims. But to know how they deal with the minorities in their own, we need to refer to countries like Pakistan, Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, Somalia, Egypt, and the rest where minorities are persecuted and killed for practicing their religion. Now coming back to Muhammad's life in Mecca, even Muslim historians could not find any evidence of violence and persecution of Muhammad by the Meccans. This is what they do with non-Muslims, especially Christians in their countries. Let us consider the case of Brother Anwar Kenneth. Do you know what is his crime? All that he did was to win a debate against a Muslim leader, proving that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, and therefore the inference that Muhammad was not a prophet of God. He is charged under the blasphemy law of 295C, which is the same charge they threatened me with. He was arrested on the 14th of September 2001 and then was sentenced to death on the 18th of July 2002, according to the blasphemy law of Pakistan. The sentence includes a fine of Pakistani rupees of 500,000 as well. The High Court in Pakistan upheld the sentence on the 30th of June 2014 on those trumped-up charges of blasphemy against him, and he is behind bars waiting for his execution day. This is just one of the hundreds of people who are punished in these extremist Islamic countries, and this pattern is shown to them by none other than their prophet himself. There is a limit for every insult. The people of Quraysh came to the end of their rope, and that is why they boycotted Muhammad and followers. When Muhammad was in Mecca, his first wife Khadijah passed away, and needless to say the business of Khadijah went downhill. And after some days, Abu Talib, his pagan uncle, also passed away. That is the real reason why he migrated to Medina. He claimed that one night Allah said to him that the enemies of Mecca would harm him. Therefore, he and his friend Abu Bakr decided to leave Mecca and go to Medina. As usual, he received the revelation as we see in Surah 8 verse 30. The verse reads as follows, "And remember, O Muhammad, when those who disbelieved plotted against you to restrain you or kill you or evict you from Mecca. But they plan, and Allah plans, and Allah is the best of planners." This shows the mental state of the Prophet, who was under some bewitchment to assume that somebody is trying to kill him, and his Allah is also speculating without knowing anything. Apart from these self-made claims, there is no evidence that they ever physically harmed or intended to harm him. All that we see is that Muhammad insulted the pagan gods just as how Muslims still do with non-Muslim deities. The history continues to repeat over and over again. He asked few of his followers to reach Medina, but some of them did not want to go to follow him and migrate. Suddenly Allah was ready with a verse to threaten them with hellfire. Surah 4 verse 97 is that new revelation which coerced them. Some of them who were slaves and wanted to emigrate with Muhammad were caught by their pagan owners and beaten up. One of that was Bilal, who was eventually purchased by Abu Bakr. It needs to be noted that Bilal was not getting beaten for changing his religion, but for causing financial loss to his owner as he was running away from his owner. Interestingly, even after seeing the beating of the slave Bilal, the Prophet of Islam did not stop slavery. He continued owning slaves, especially the ones from Africa. These actions of Muhammad caused a friction in his relationship with the people of Quraysh. While many Muslim religious leaders will throw the story of persecution of Muhammad in their khutbahs, there is not even an iota of truth in those statements. The presence of 360 idols in Kaaba is enough of proof that the people of Mecca did not mind other gods other than the ones they have devotion for. Moreover, there were Jews, Christians, and Zoroastrians in that land. We do not have any record of conflict between these groups and the pagans of Arabia. Not only this, there were other false prophets like Muhammad in the land. However, the intolerance towards others started with the advent of Islam. It was not the people of Mecca who ordered Muslims to exile, it was Muhammad himself who ordered the Hijrah. Apart from the coercion to leave Mecca and go to Medina, he also dangled a bribing carrot to attract these people to make their Hijrah. Surah 16 verse 41 promises them worldly riches and heavenly riches too. It says, "And those who emigrated for the cause of Allah after they had been wronged, we will surely settle them in this world in a good place, but the reward of the hereafter is greater if only they could know." Some of those who followed him in Mecca seems to have distanced themselves from Muhammad and was planning to leave Islam. And do you know what his Allah says to him? It's plain and clear. Muhammad is threatening them with murder if they desert Islam. Gradually, the Allah of Islam is showing his true colors. Welcome to the religion of peace. This is the point where Islam started to become a cult. These threats and allurements is a potent combination of separating people from their family. Remember that by the word family, it's not just the nuclear families of modern times. A family is a huge tree of support system. Remember how Muhammad was taken care of by his uncles, aunts, grandfather, and the rest? He was an orphan who was helped by the family. Now he wanted his followers to be distanced from their families. By doing so, he can effectively control them and force his will upon them. As his followers are delinked from their families, they have this inner desire to be belonging to somebody. Cult leaders know this very well. When frustration reaches to a high, they agree to even kill others. Their thinking is totally controlled and manipulated by their leaders that suicide and murders come naturally to them. We have the example of Jim Jones, who did the same in our lifetime. You can look out for videos regarding Jonestown Massacre to know more about it. Now coming back to the Hijrah. The Islamic calendar started with Hijrah. Muhammad found that the people of Medina were open and not so much opposing his newfound religion as was the Meccans, so naturally he could easily intimidate the Medinans. There was another advantage for Muhammad in Medina. That is, the Medinans did not know the history and the character issues of the Prophet of Islam as the Meccans knew. He was a new entrant among many other prophets who used to be around those areas. So naturally, there is no reason to be extra careful about this new entrant. Those other prophets were non-violent in nature and used to spread message of universal love and brotherhood. The most important of those prophets were a person by name Musailama. He was quite popular in his tribe and among his people. However, contrast the popularity of Musailama with Muhammad, where his own tribe and people opposed him. There was also a prophetess by name Hijrah, and even she had a lot of following. This also proves that women were regarded highly and had quite a lot of influence. It was with the onset of Islam, women were considered as sex objects and sex slaves. These other prophets never wanted to build a kingdom for themselves or win land and properties as was the true intent of Muhammad. The only reason why the Medinans easily accepted Islam was because of their hatred for the Jews. As the Jews were well educated and prosperous in the region, they became the center of envy for the others in Medina. Even today, the entire Arab nations are weak and envious of the more prosperous Israel. The history will continue to repeat itself. I am prompted to quote a promise that was given to Israel by none other than God Himself. Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 7 says, "The Lord will grant that the enemies who rise up against you will be defeated before you. They will come at you from one direction but flee from you in seven." Why do not these Muslims bless the children of Israel and be partakers of the blessings? Why is it that they have to burn themselves in jealousy and be beaten up by the Israelites? We will discuss in detail about the conflicts that Muhammad and his followers had with the Jews in later episodes. I would like to end this video with a challenge to our Muslim friends. The challenge is this: send me 5 good things practiced by Muhammad in his lifetime, which any person can follow for a better life. It has to be appealing to the conscience of all humans and should be exclusive to the life of the Prophet. I am reiterating again, these 5 things should have been practiced by the Prophet of Islam, not just said, but practiced. Go ahead and put those things in the comment section.
We have come to the end of this video. If you have liked the content, please do punch the like button and consider subscribing to the channel. Also, don't forget to click on the bell icon that will make sure that you are notified of all our latest videos. Till we meet again, may the good Lord bless you and keep you.